Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to this week's HODLNOTS Weekly Warm-Up. I'm John,
I'm Vicky.
and this is the news at 9 a.m. UTC, where it is sometime on the hour, somewhere in the world where you are right now. Speaking of, let's get into some of the news making crypto headlines over the last couple of days. And we'll start off with, of course, the elephant in the room. Or is it a bear? Bitcoin. Bitcoin briefly erases the 2025 gains it's made so far as crypto continues to bleed over the weekend. Bitcoin's latest tumble has pushed it below that $93,507 mark, or price that it entered at this year. Despite the year mostly seeing positive industry developments from corporations and governments so far. This year was tipped to be a strong one for the crypto markets after US President Donald Trump was inaugurated on January 20th and formed the most pro-crypto administration to date, which has followed through on most of its promises. However, regulatory momentum under the Trump administration has been accompanied by an explosion of corporate Bitcoin treasury adoption and more inflows into the spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund side of things. However, Trump's war on tariffs and the US government shutdown has contributed to multiple double-digit Bitcoin price pullbacks throughout the year so far. Is it over? We'll see. Vicky.
Well, one person who apparently is not contributing to this sell-off or this dip is Michael Saylor, because he has denied rumors of Bitcoin sell-off, saying we're buying a lot. So, the strategy co-founder and executive chairman, Michael Saylor, has rejected social media claims that the software company trimmed its massive Bitcoin position and reaffirmed they're still buying quite a lot, he said. So the rumor started on Thursday last week when the pseudonym X account Walter Bloomberg cited intelligence data suggesting Strategy's Bitcoin stash had fallen from about 484,000 to 437,000, but said it was unclear whether the change was just a migration to different wallets. So Saylor pushed back directly on X by saying there is no truth to this rumor. So even though the dip, he's probably buying the dip actually, not selling the dip.
The dip of the dip of the dippity dip. Now, what are some of the crypto executives in the crypto space having to say and speculate as to what is to blame with Bitcoin's slump under 94,000? Now, it's quite a long article, so we've just summarized it quite briefly. Crypto analysts have shared a few ideas of what may have caused the crypto markets to bleed over this weekend, but are assured that it's a regular part of the crypto cycle. Now, these executives speculate that outflows from crypto exchange traded funds, ETFs, uh, as well as long-term whale sales and escalating geopolitical tensions may be to blame for the recent market slump as Bitcoin dropped to nearly $93,000 on Sunday. And we have heard about a number of things in last week's headlines as well, with the trade deals with China, government shutdown, a lot of geopolitical instability currently influencing the general markets, and that also includes the stock markets and a bunch of finance markets. So that said, when things stabilize, I mean, it's supposed to be Govember, right, Vic? So hopefully it's not going down anymore. And it's supposed to be Moonvember as well. So it's the moon rising or setting? We don't know. Moving on.
Yeah, well, at least I think even though this dip of the dip of the dip, people or countries are not losing faith yet because Japan has said they're going to pass crypto overhaul laws, major tax cuts, new rules, and fresh restrictions in 2026. So, beginning April 2026, Japan will implement a package of reforms that fundamentally redraws the framework for taxing, classifying, and supervising crypto assets. So, at the center of this shift is a decision by Japan's Financial Services Agency, which is the FSA, to reclassify 105 cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, as financial products rather than miscellaneous digital assets. So, under the reforms, profits from approved cryptocurrencies will be taxed at a flat 20% rate, mirroring the tax structure applied to stock trading. So investors will be allowed to offset losses and carrying them forward for up to 3 years, a benefit previously unavailable to crypto holders. Only assets included in the FSA's list of 105 financial product class crypto tokens will qualify for the lower rate, though. And smaller cap or high risk tokens, such as meme coins, may continue to fall under the higher miscellaneous tax category. So the reforms are expected to boost retail activity and remove a long-standing barrier that kept many domestic investors on the sidelines. So Japan isn't really worried about this dip, it sounds like.
Not at all. There's still plenty of growth, ladies and gents. We know that this has been somewhat of a retracement. It's not the biggest one to date, but there is a story coming up a little later talking about the fear and crypto index. And well, countries like Japan and everybody else is building. We've spoken about this a couple of weeks ago as well. Plenty of African countries are building. Many countries are. So in the meantime, things might seem a little shaky, but things are moving up now. Speaking of shaky, we did cover a story a couple of months back, actually about, you might remember it, Steak and Shake, the very popular American fast food restaurant company or group. Well, they are now expanding into Bitcoin country. Where's Bitcoin country? El Salvador. So Steak and Shake, this company, you may well know it very well, first began accepting Bitcoin in May of this year, and now is expanding its stores to El Salvador. Now, according to this company, we are honored to be in Bitcoin company, they said in an X post, following the Steak and Shake's participation in the country's Bitcoin Historico event on Wednesday and Thursday last week. Steak and Shake started accepting Bitcoin for payment at its stores in May, and the company's chief operations officer, Dan Edwards, said that the goal is to have Bitcoin accepted at all of the company's locations worldwide. Now, the company attributed a nearly 11% rise in same-store sales in Q2, the second quarter of the year, to its decision to start accepting Bitcoin at its restaurants. Now, the company has become iconic in the Bitcoin community and highlights the growing number of merchants accepting Bitcoin for goods and services. Acceptance of Bitcoin as tender for small everyday purchases is also a precursor to mass adoption. So, Steak and Shake shaking things up, and hopefully a lot of other chains and brands and companies are going to start to follow. And we're seeing that here in Africa. We're starting to see it globally. So despite Bitcoin going down, things are being built up. Vicky, back to you.
Yeah, that's so good to see. And another shake out of a bad kind is now this is for everyone because we are all downloading things from the internet all the time. So there is a Chrome fake crypto wallet basically out there. So a malicious, it's called Safety Ethereum Wallet extension, is currently live on the Chrome Web Store using a crafty backdoor to exfiltrate seed phrases. So, blockchain security platform Socket has warned of a new malicious crypto wallet extension on Google's Chrome Web Store that has a unique way of stealing seed phrases to drain user assets. As I mentioned, the extension is called Safety, which is SAFERY, Ethereum Wallet, and claims itself as a reliable and secure browser extension designed for easy and efficient management of Ethereum-based assets. However, as highlighted in a Tuesday report from Socket, the extension is actually designed to steal seed phrases via a crafty backdoor. Marketed as simple, secure Ethereum wallet, it contains a backdoor that exfiltrates seed phrases by encoding them into a SUI address and broadcasting microtransactions from threat actor controlled SUI wallet. So all of that is obviously over my head as well. But basically, it takes your seed phrases through a code and puts them into another wallet. So please be careful when you're downloading things, even from a Chrome store, Apple store, because not everything is real. So that is just something to be aware of.
Yeah, they definitely.
Now, ooh,
So sorry
sorry,
to
go ahead.
interject there, but yeah, they definitely will be investigating this as well. And to
Yeah,
that point, ladies and gents, last week's 4H Happy Hour Hangout, we did cover security. Remember that? So go and have a
yeah.
watch. It is out on the socials, it's in the YouTube channel, etc. But again, not your keys, not your crypto. We covered that extensively. So now this is starting to become even more and more prevalent. All right, back to the headlines, and this is normally covering into the next segment, but there to Vicky's left-hand side, this new story, well, the story itself isn't particularly new, but it is a little scary. But is it a good opportunity? Vicky, tell us more.
Well, we have gone over the fear and greed index before in the HODLNOTS Happy Hour Hangout, and when you should be fearful when everyone's greedy, and when you should be greedy when everyone's fearful. So this could be an opportunity to buy because, yikes, the crypto sentiment index, the fear and greed index, has sunk to its lowest since February. At the moment, it's at 14. Yikes, like I said. It did drop to 10 on Saturday, and that's, like I said, the lowest it's been since February 27th. And that's when Bitcoin fell to 95,000 on Friday. It's obviously a little bit higher at the moment, but no, well, Govember is, I mean, as John said the other day, we didn't say it was going to go up, but it actually has certainly gone down. And it's showing in the fear and greed index. And like we said, it's the most fearful in the last 8 months, but is it a good opportunity to buy? Because it is down the bottom. Everyone's fearful, everyone's selling. You don't really want to sell with everyone. You want to hold on and buy more. Possibly. It's depending on your strategy. So we're going to have to watch Govember and what was the other one? No, go. What was the other November one?
Moonvember.
Moonvember. Well, there is when the moon is below the Earth, I suppose. Ooh, down there. So yeah, we're just gonna have to watch what it does. And John will be talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance to see possibly where it's going next.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gents, not financial advice necessarily, but many times people say that buy the dip, buy the fear, not the greed side of things. So, if you have cash available and you're trading long term for certain large cap coins, might be an opportunity. But how do we read those charts? How do we know when to get in? Well, either you follow Marius's analysis around those kind of things, or if you don't have access to that, maybe have a look at the HODL Fire, which we're going to have a quick look at in terms of what's been happening with Bitcoin over the last couple of days. So let me just bring up well, that chart at least. Cool. Let's have a look. Do, 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 do. Okay. So this is kind of what we've been looking at the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, ever since back here when it was around 122, we started to see some of those OG whales and guys who've been holding Bitcoin for a long time starting to sell off really, and that kind of started the cascade. There seemed to be a little bit of a bounce and a return. We were hoping when we had our HODLNOTS weekly warm up on the 27th of October, that we would at least keep ground there. But since then, there's also been the US and China tariffs. The standoff said the government shut down for, I think, 43 days. Quite historic, that, not in the best way necessarily, and a lot of general fear within the market. And we've actually started to see Bitcoin go back into what we call the death zone when a certain death cross. You guys might have heard it before, but bear in mind again, and I think I showed you guys this last week, and I'm quickly going to just turn this off for a second. If we have a look at, and we'll do that one as well. Well, we may need to bring it back, but have a look at the bigger picture really of Bitcoin. So I know there's a lot of data there, but basically, we see all these dips and dives and stuff along the way. And while Bitcoin at the moment seems to be having, this cascade waterfall, we've seen similar before. If you have a look at that as well, it managed to find support and come back. And yes, it did take quite a few days for Bitcoin to eventually break back up above. That was a period about a month and a half. At the moment, yeah, it seems quite dire, but for it to come back and recover, I don't know, we could be sitting in, a month and a half around that if it starts to come back up again, and we might see hopefully before the end of the year, we are getting quite close. We've got about a month and a half left. Are we going to see Bitcoin back up above 115 and beyond? But for the moment, just looking at the quick market, if Bitcoin can hold these levels, as mentioned, it did dip down to $93,005. If it can hold here, which is quite strong, bear in mind that there is a CME gap, a Chicago Mercantile Exchange gap down below here at about 92. Might see a wick, and if that does hold, ladies and gents, we might start to see that slow, sluggish return up for the markets and, of course, for Bitcoin as well. So for the moment, I'm anticipating for the next couple of days, as we start to look at a few things, that Bitcoin, I think, is going to kind of go sideways. It's going to encounter a little bit of resistance along the way, and it's going to need to eventually come back up. But I think a little bit of rockiness along that way. But in the meantime, there are plenty of coins that are running from a scalp trading perspective, and even some that might work really well from a HODL fire perspective as well. More on that from Vicky shortly. But one last thing, if we have a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, just for those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, let's keep it fairly simple. Just looking at this, is that still the majority of trades happening within the crypto space, buys and sells, really are still very much Bitcoin centric, and I believe will be like this for quite some time. Obviously, we'd all love to, see kind of like what started happening back here when the trades weren't really about Bitcoin as much before, and they started to see some good action for the altcoins. But at the moment, we need the market to stabilize. So we don't care. I don't care that this is quite high at about 59, 60% of the entire crypto market space. But once Bitcoin gets back, and this will be all the trades going up and down, and there might be an increase, that's fine. But when Bitcoin is stable again, I think still above 112, 115. When we get there, it might be in a week, it might be 3 weeks, it might be 5 weeks. We trade what we see, but in the meantime, this will continue to do its thing. So we don't mind as much on that. But in the meantime, plenty of opportunities in which you, ladies and gents, can trade. I know that the long-term traders might be a little frustrated, but HODL fire traders and scalp traders, there are opportunities out there. Vicky, tell us what's happening in the large this week.
Yeah, so the large calls are fairly normal with a few exceptions, which really aren't large calls, but do affect quite a few of our large members. So after this call, the week kicks off with our self-paced course takers call. But this week, everyone's jumping on the Monday call. So no matter what chapter you're busy with, there is only going to be one call this week because we are going to Australia and the ACC. So there's only going to be one call this week, which is on Monday. There will be no Thursday call as usual. But then the week does continue with Wendy's normal large calls, which is trading and training call on Tuesday at 6 a.m. UTC. So remember 6 a.m. UTC now. And obviously, that's where our large members can jump on and ask her any questions. And she does a bit of training as well every week. It's a little bit different. Those calls are recorded, so if you do miss them, you can see them in the Certified Academy. But it's also and always better to jump on live, so you can ask questions. And then the day continues as well on the 18th of November. And those who have just graduated from the HODL Fire course and are in the graduate chat will have their call on 12 p.m. UTC. And we just had a new bunch of graduates join. So there's going to even be more people in there chatting and participating. So that call is going to be super fun as well. And then on Wednesday, we have the IPO call. So that's 7 a.m. on Wednesday. And that's for our IPO members. And then the HODL dot call will be at 8 p.m. UTC on Wednesday afternoon or evening. And then Thursday, we'll see the second of our HODL dot calls for those who are taking the 3M challenge at 8 a.m. on Thursday. And that actually ends the week because Thursday we will have no call for our self-paced course. And John and Wendy and I will be in Sydney. And we are going to, John might have wanted to mention this, but we are going to try to cross live while we're in Sydney for this call next week. But this call next week will be on Sunday instead of Monday. So we're going to cross live, hopefully, maybe if the internet holds out, from the ACC and take you around and see what all is happening there, which should be super fun. It is going to be a little earlier. It is on the schedule in the lodge. So we'll try to, and it's also actually on the Bitcoin Trending Forecast website. So please do try to join us for that. We'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. We will keep you guys updated. HODLNOTS and Bitcoin Trade and Forecast will be sharing
Yeah.
hopefully some live crossings. We might even do a Zoom like we did in Vegas. Again, just to keep you guys up to date with the goings on. Who knows who we're going to see there? There's some big brands, some big exchanges, and big personalities as well. They're going to be there at the Australian Crypto Convention. So we'll give it a go, bearing in mind that there is a big time difference. So it might be super early for those in South Africa and in Europe, and super late in the evening, I think, for those in the Western Hemisphere, North and South America. But we'll keep you guys updated as to what the plan is once we touch ground, or at least I touch ground on Thursday. We'll start to put together a timing around all of that. So pretty exciting for that. For those of you who are attending the ACC, and we're going to get to meet and see you guys again for the first time, looking very much forward to that. So lots happening this week with the variety of calls. That said, yeah, you guys have a fantastic week. I'm off on that airplane tomorrow, and then I will be coming to you guys live from Sydney sometime later this week as well. All right, ladies and gents, we will catch you on one or two of those calls later this week. Have a great week. Otherwise, watch out for that market. And if you have any queries, of course, around any of the Hot and Lots calls, pop in the lodge. I'll send a support ticket. You guys know what to do. Until next week, Sunday. Bye bye.